Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 86 on Tuesday, the 17th of January 2017. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew.
And we're going to aim for a shorter show than last week.
Yes, because this one goes out to you, Dog Knob 1.
Yes, because last week was very long, and we even felt it was very long when we were recording it.
Catch-up.
Yeah, and we've got a fair bit of follow-up this week as well, so what we're going to do is not faff around and not chat too much, and we're just going to get on with it.
Sounds like a plan.
Good. So, first up, just not long after we recorded last week, it was announced that the FBI had arrested and charged Oliver Schmidt, a senior Volkswagen executive in the US, over the Dieselgate affair, for want of a better term. And the reason he was arrested is that he's been accused of deliberately trying to deceive regulators in the US during their investigations. And one of the things that he's said to have done is labelled emissions in test results as technical faults rather than admitting that they were caused by any type of cheat software. Schmidt appeared before Parliament in the UK right back at the start of all this in September 2014. And he was one of the first representatives from Volkswagen to point out that the brand's actions with the illegal defeat device in the US were not technically illegal in Europe, which we believe remains true.
It was interesting, actually, that he was arrested, because I saw a lot of people say, well, why did he go to America? That would seem a very daft thing to do. He must have known he was going to be arrested. The warrant for his arrest was issued by a judge on the Saturday that he was due to fly out.
All right, so he might well have
So it was
over.
A case of they suddenly went, oh, hang on, he's here, quick, let's get this in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do him. But it does raise the question, why go there in the first place?
Well, you'd think, because, well, there were also a distinct lack of other VW executives at the Detroit Motor Show the other week.
Yes.
People reckon that this possibly had something to do with it.
Well, yeah, there was a lot, because after Schmidt was arrested, the court papers showed that the senior executives not only knew about the defeat devices, but actively squashed or quashed even this information being released, and no one was to admit it. They were to carry on concealing it, which adds another layer. Just when it looked like things were beginning to sort of lines were being drawn under things, and people were being able to move on, etc., etc. You come out with things like they were deliberately misleading the US authorities. They're not going to take that very well. No, especially not when they've got the new regime that's about to come in over there is if you're looking to curry favour, then with that, then probably beating up foreign companies is probably quite a good way of doing that. It's worth mentioning that the affidavit, not that the FBI gets on particularly well with the incoming president. The affidavit for Mr. Schmidt's arrest cites two VW employees, according to this story on BBC, who said that in a presentation to Volkswagen's management in Germany, that VW employees assured VW executive management that US regulators were not aware of the defeat device at all. Yeah, and so far, the names that have been issued are not the board members yet.
No.
They are executives, so it's a rung below. At least a rung below. So it'll be interesting to see, because early on last year, there were lots of accusations flying about that the board did actually know. Now this, and this was denied, and people
poo-pooed it and everything, but this sort of gives a hint, and it brings that back up again, doesn't it? You know, how far up the chain did they know? And you mentioning the new American regime coming in. Regime, is it? That's probably
regime was a sort of possibly a bad word, but also quite a good word, I think.
Yes, very descriptive.
It was an accident to begin with. Then I stuck to it.
But that ties in with some of the good news, because VW have agreed, in principle, a draft settlement, haven't they, Alan?
Yeah, $4.3 billion US. Yeah, in a draft settlement with the American authorities over the Dieselgate scandal. It's going to plead guilty to breaking US laws. The aim of all of this being to close off the legal action in the US before the Trump administration change. And when you see the kind of things that have been being said about this week by President-elect Trump about trying to bring in basically bring in punishments for people who build vehicles in maybe Mexico rather than the US, then you can understand why Volkswagen's trying to round that one off, particularly.
But I mean, he's being consistent, as he was with his, without being too political here, which is a bit tricky, I understand.
It's very difficult not to be political.
Because he's not worrying about facts actually entering the...
No, I mean, the fact that BMW is the biggest
net exporter,
net vehicle exporter from the US, because all the X models are made over there, are made in South Carolina, as I tweeted yesterday. So hey, we're in a post-fact world.
But going back to this settlement,
yes, sorry,
that with that lump sum, it does mean that they will go past the 19 billion they've set aside.
It's reckoned that it will actually go past 20 billion. And yes, you're right. 19 billion had been set aside originally. Volkswagen's already agreed to $15 billion with a compensation settlement with environmental authorities and with owners in the US. Okay, so remember that number, that $20 billion. Oh, God. Yes, that $20 billion is only for the US. That doesn't include the Spanish payouts, doesn't it? It doesn't include anything that anyone else is going to get. Now, here in Europe, they've said they are going to be, I've forgotten the wording, but basically they are going to be fighting any more of these sort of class actions that try and appear here, or the equivalents that we discussed at great length last week in Germany as well. Because, hey, if we've not learnt much about diesel emissions, we've learnt an awful lot about the world's legal system.
Yes, quite. But moving on to our last bit of follow-up.
It is.
And it's still a diesel engine, though.
Oh, it is, isn't it? So on you go.
But it gives me the opportunity to say... once again, it's one of my favourite things to say. Following Renault's raid last year, the information that's been gathered and the investigation that's been done has now been passed on to the French government for to see whether it actually the judicial side of things need to come involved. The implication is that it does. We need to make it clear that Renault is adamant and has always been adamant that their engines meet the legislation that they are bound by in Europe. Again, this is a similar story to VW, which
similar wording anyway.
Make them morally right, but they technically are right. And as that's what we're talking about when it comes to the legal side of things. Mm-hmm. So, this will be interesting to see because, as we said when they were originally raided, this is a French company being investigated by the French government, and they don't do that lightly.
It's unheard of. Yes. Protectionist? Moi?
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of that going on in the world at the moment.
There is an awful lot of that going on, yes.
But because that actually leads us into
some new news, which sounds like old news. I'll give you that, okay? It's new news, sounds like old news. FCA, oh, goodness me. FCA, that it is now alleged
according to a report in the Financial Times, and this story from Autocar, that more than 700,000 FCA vehicles in Europe and America are potentially fitted with emission cheating software. And that's great. Normally when we talk about these things about FCA, we move on relatively quickly because it's to do with the US. On this occasion, about 600,000 of these are thought to be in Europe alone.
Yeah,
which is quite grim. There are a whole list of vehicles which have been accused of. Well, the vehicles haven't been accused of cheating, which it is alleged are cheating. They include stuff like the Dodge Ram 1500 in the US and the Jeep Grand Cherokee, both here and in the US, which have the manufacturer's 3-litre diesel engine. Over 104,000 of those are in the US, about 4,000 here in the UK.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, and the Department for Transport are taking this seriously enough that they've asked the Environmental Protection Agency to look into it a bit more, and they're going to be retesting those here in the UK.
They are. That's what I was going to say. They are following, as they did with VW, and actually retesting them to see if there are any discrepancies. But, they retested all the Volkswagen ones, and technically they met the testing regime. So, again, probably okay in Europe, because we allow these things, the length of test is prescribed, etc., etc. Be interesting to see if it happens in America, or what happens in America.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that and we'll let you know as we go along.
Well, I think normally we look for the middle of the show, and we do seem to have barreled through that quite quickly, but I think it's a good point in which to do our.
It is, yes, I think so.
Because I think that's the end of the bad news.
I think it is the end of the bad news. No, so it's quite a nice neat little snippet in there. Sorry, we said we weren't going to waffle as much this week, and because I wasn't looking at the right screen, we have waffled. But yes. Folks, this is that moment in the show when I ask if you could please take a short moment of your time, if you haven't already, to leave us a rating and a review via the podcast playing platform of your choice. Podcast apps such as Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Downcast, Overcast, and similar all let you upvote. I'll let you upvote or favourite podcasts, and we ask if you use any of those, then if you could do that, that would be just great. iTunes, which is of course the most powerful and popular podcast platform of all, as I say every week, sometimes more successfully than this week. So 5-star ratings, or even just a decent rating on there, and particularly a review. Goes a long, long way. All those other podcast platforms take their lead from iTunes when it comes to selecting who goes into them and where they go in the rankings. So ratings mean an awful lot. Please don't forget not just to rate and review this Motoring Podcast news show, which you're listening to right now, but also review as well. We've also begun putting the show out on YouTube. It is still a bit of an experiment. It takes a couple of days longer, mostly because I actually need to be at home with a decent connection to upload the files. But we're curious to see just what that uptake is going to be. If you could take a moment or two to visit youtube.com/motoringpodcast, subscribe to the channel, and like the videos, that would be just fab. We've even had productive and grown-up YouTube comments, something I just didn't know was actually possible. So thank you.
I haven't had a chance to check those, so I will do this week, because I was about to ask. Yes, I know. There's poor form on my part, and I do apologise, everyone. I don't just sit there looking at the stuff we produce, going, "Where's the comments? Why aren't people talking? How dare they?"
No, it's brilliant. Thank you, folks. We do really appreciate your feedback, not just there, but also via any of the ways that we talk about at the end of the show. So thank you, folks. Much appreciated. Oh, and if you've done all of that, then if you could tell a mate, that would be just brilliant as well. Thank you.
Yep.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yes.
Right. We said we weren't talking about it last week because it was in the middle of happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's our roundup of Detroit Motor Show. And frankly, it was a bit of a snooze fest as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, it was much less interesting than I was expecting.
I'm going to run through a few of the cars that were on display or revealed, because there was only a few that sort of made me sit up and think, oh, that's quite nice. And I'll start with the Kia Stinger GT, which is a bit of a silly name.
It's a lot of a silly name, really, isn't it?
I don't object to that, actually, because with the car names at the minute are all very serious and all very formal, and they're all seem to be copying each other, and a couple of capital letters followed by some numbers and things like that, and it's just like, come on, what's happened to the good old days? The good old days when we used to have real names
like Avenger and Husky.
Yes, quite. It's all aggression. And to be fair, this does look quite aggressive. The Stinger.
It's got bonnet vents and wing vents and big scoopies in the bonnet.
Yes.
And a profile like an Audi.
Well, the rear lights are a bit like an Audi as well, but I quite like it. I mean, it's a bit old school as far as V6 rear-wheel drive, that sort of thing.
Is it for the UK market? Did we know?
It is going to come.
Cool, because then it'll be up against the same platform on the Hyundai Genesis, or Hyundai's Genesis brand, because I don't know if it's going to be. Yeah. Sorry, Robin, just keeping it right there. Okay, so there's that. So you like that for the looks and the fact that it was big, cool, and slightly different from anything else,
and the engine and all the rest of it. But I also liked, talking of large, the Lexus LS.
Now, I saw some of the car designery comments that went along with this, and some people were like, seemed to quite like it, and others, the rear, that sixth light round the C-pillar, and the fact there's no consistency and there's many different sort of odd angles around it, seemed to really rile folk.
Yeah, there were a few very opinionated designery chaps who were opinionated.
Yeah.
And very. But I quite like it. I mean, the front grille, it reminds me a little bit of the 90s Magic Eye posters.
It reminds me quite a little bit, actually, of the grille on the front of my microphone here. It's got that look, it is a bit like that. The current sort of metallic Predator look at the front of the Lexus, but it's got that, give us all the styling stuff that just about all the Japanese brands seem to have just at the moment.
It's a bit less on the side, though.
Yeah, it's not so slashy.
On the flanks, they haven't gone too mad, and I think it suits it better for it. But I like how it just seems a bit squatter. I'm using, obviously, technical design.
Oh, yeah. Dead technical, like. Yeah. Did you see the picture of the interior of this as well, with the... It looked brilliant as long as you're not the person who has to valet it, with the sort of all the vents, and it was like streaks right the way across. And I couldn't work out from any of the pictures I saw was just whether those were actually deep little shells that were going to collect dust and crud, or whether they ended up being
to have the opportunity to let my horde loose in it, just to see that lovely, gorgeous interior. How messed up it would be, or is it actually going to be quite resilient?
Yeah, you do know that Lexus, now that you've said that, will never, ever, ever.
No, if we
signed affidavit,
to get a Lexus,
you will not have
you're
your
the
children.
driver.
Yes, it's in my name, and it's not coming near your children. Anyway, I quite like that. Yes,
I thought that was. I
particularly like that colour, that kind of greeny grey colour. I don't know if it's just the photos, but it's. I thought that was particularly nice.
Okay, last proper one that we saw that I thought was a little bit interesting was the Infiniti QX50.
Oh, right. That's not what I thought you were going to choose.
Not so much the looks as such, because I think it was. It looks very much like an Infiniti, and it looks very much like a Q5 sized SUV.
Yeah.
But them coming into that market.
Yes,
really giving it a go.
Not actually, not coming into that market, because they have had one there before, and you've just gone slightly quicker than me because I'm trying to find the name of the current model, which has been around for a while. I know because I got one as a loan car when my G35 was being serviced at one point. And they have had. I mean, it must have sold about 5 cars,
but they're very rounded. That was when they're sort of melted car.
The sort of phase. It was essentially the same platform as the Nissan Murano at the time, and I don't even know if it's still for sale. Hang on, I can't get there quickly enough. No, it's not still for sale anymore. But there was a QX35 or something. QX44, I can't remember, 35 or 37 or something like that, and it was essentially this sort of replaces that. I'm sorry, Terry Steeden is now going to tell me off for getting the range wrong or something. But yeah, I like this. This is far more like it, and again, just like the smaller Infinitis, the Q30 and the QX30, then it looks like it's one that will actually really be there and sort of start to be visible on the road.
I think it's a key market. The Q5 X3 sized SUV, sort of premium SUV, seems to be one that sells reasonably well. It's going to have their fantastic engine, isn't it? Their new engine, I presume.
I would imagine so. Yeah, with the 2-litre VCT motor.
Yeah, so that's going to be really efficient and low on emissions and all that sort of stuff. So it makes it very attractive to fleet buyers and company car drivers.
Well, yeah, and they're quite good. That is a bit of a sort of somewhere that they're aiming at.
Especially with the new VED rules coming in soon.
Yep.
So yeah, and the last one, because we didn't really get to see anything, but I like the idea of a new Ford Bronco.
Well, so do I, but that's because I have happy memories.
And they said it was going to be a global vehicle. So that hints that we make it.
It could be, yes. If it is a global vehicle, then I hope so. The only thing that would stop it really is if they decided not to build it in right-hand drive, which would be a huge shame. Yeah, I mean,
so they were the ones for me. There was other stuff out there.
I noticed you haven't mentioned the Volkswagen ID Buzz.
Which thing they're not going to build, and like as we said last week, let's wheel out a pastiche of the microbus, because then everyone will say lovely things about it because everybody loves them, even though they've never driven one. So we'll get positive press even though we're not actually doing anything. It's just smoke and mirrors.
It's their most versatile and emotional vehicle.
Producing one at almost every show. I will be super impressed when I can see one that's ready to be sold. Then I will start taking it seriously. Then I will discuss it. Until then, there.
But it's like autonomous and emotional and stuff, Andrew. I don't understand why you're not interested in it. The Audi Q8
the
was
only
the
emotion
other one.
it manages to engender in me is anger and then disappointment. I don't think that's what they're going for.
No, angry, by the way, is a fine way of describing the front of the Audi Q8 concept as well, which people who were there seem to really, really like, but I'm not taken by it.
The only thing I liked about that was Audi just said to all the other manufacturers, SUV coupe thing, doesn't work. Don't do it. This is how you do it.
It was better than many of those. You're right.
They didn't try and slash or create a hatchback, basically. They didn't try and do that. So when these, the X6, X4 and the GLC?
Yes.
Those hideous
that thing.
SUV coupe.
I think it's a GLE coupe.
it's just it's a big hatchback. That's all they've made. They've made a big hatchback. Stop doing it.
I noticed in the previews for the Geneva show, because there's over a month to 2 months until then, so of course everything's starting to drip out already of what's going to be shown. One of the things that I've seen listed is a Range Rover Sport Coupe as well, so I'm really not looking forward to seeing that. Yeah. So that'll be interesting anyway. There's something to keep an eye out for.
Was there anything else that caught your eye out of that?
Not really, to be honest. As I say, it was actually less interesting. I mean, there was loads of stuff for the US market, which is irrelevant over here. So there was there were new Camry was announced. There was some other new. Was there a new Accord? A new US market Accord announced.
No,
as well.
they released their Odyssey.
Oh yeah, the new Odyssey. Now I've driven two generations ago of Odyssey, which is a lovely vehicle.
That was one of the main headlines was Battle of the Minivans, and that's all you need to know, and we can move on.
The Honda Odyssey, by the way, certainly a couple of generations ago, my uncle in Canada had one, and it was a lovely thing to drive. There's something about a 3.5
straight line
3.5 litre V6 in a minibus that is very, very pleasant to drive. So yeah, I have a soft spot for the Honda Odyssey. Speaking of things in the US, though, before we move elsewhere in the world,
yes, let's move on from this.
Well, it's partially in the US and partially in the internet. Is that you might have noticed that Formula E were holding a virtual E-Prix at
the first one
at CES in Las Vegas. Now, you may well know that as Formula E goes around the world, then one of the things that they take along with them as part of their little mini circus is a big connected driving sim of that particular Formula E course, and there are celebrity drivers. There are, I'm trying to think what the word is. Is it esports? Yeah, esports.
Yes, esports.
Esports race drivers who are involved. Loads of the actual drivers get involved, and they race against each other partway through the day. So they actually have a virtual race as well as the physical race. And basically what's been happening is, as it's been going along, the people who've done best in that were then invited along to the inaugural Visa Vegas E-Race, to give it its correct name, where basically they all competed beside each other virtually for proper prize money, and the winner...
Yes, serious prize money.
Yeah, serious prize money. Well, there was a prize pot of $1 million there, and the winner, who races for the Faraday Future Dragon Racing Sim Race sub-team, was a chap called Bono Huis. I'm not sure how you phrase Dutch.
Hui.
Yeah, him. So he won. He won $200,000. Bono, as well as another $25,000 for getting pole position in the race, which is quite fantastic. That they managed to take racing drivers and racing to Vegas, but to have it in the middle of CES as well. So once again, it's raising the profile of we saw a lot of electric vehicles.
Well, I think it's another excellent example of Formula E marketing.
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
we said it a lot last year, and they're just continuing on. I think this is a great idea. You do it in the middle of CES. You're guaranteed to get headlines, particularly with this sort of money. I mean, it's the biggest prize ever in esports.
Yeah,
but it means that they had people like Jean Todt watching.
Yeah, actually, they're watching rather than
and taking it seriously and discussing it in press conferences and things like that. So it makes e-racing more of a thing that's that's going to be considered seriously by the motor racing governing body, and that's brilliant, because not everybody can get to a racetrack, not everybody can participate in a racetrack. Doing e-racing opens it up to everyone pretty much.
What's quite cool about this is that they have both the specialists in e-racing and also physical racing drivers as well. So there was a bit of drama around a technical glitch, which for a while put Clews into second place. But Frederick Rosenqvist from Mahindra Racing was racing in it. He ended up in the top 10. Jose Marino Lopez from DS Virgin Racing, Sam Bird from DS Virgin Racing, Daniel Abt, Nelson Piquet Jr. All finished in the top 10. Just there. So the people who are the sim racers and the I'm going to say real drivers, and that sounds bad. Then they were very close, and they were
Formula
mixed.
E drivers against the sim drivers.
Yeah, so there wasn't.
I think that's the best way to put it.
So it wasn't. So, and it was a real mixed bag in that top 10. So it wasn't that there was a big division between one camp and the other camp in this. That it was.
Well, they must do so much sim work now.
Yeah, I think so.
That side of things will not be alien to them.
Yeah,
but they also have to work on the being out on the track stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bought some tyres for the Yaris from a sort of budding race driver bloke, and it was a pain trying to ring him to arrange to collect them from Silverstone, because he was there, but he was in the sim. Because that seems to be the thing that happens these days, is that people, because actual racing is quite expensive, but sim time is a cheap way of getting practice in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Moving on, more motorsport then.
Yeah, completely different type of motorsport though.
Yeah, the Dakar Rally. It's finished. And congratulations to Peugeot.
Mm-hmm.
A 1-2-3 in their amazing looking 3AA.
Yes.
I have actually spoken to Peugeot this week, and I have asked, I say asked, probably begged.
Did you ask for a 3008?
Because you're whether they were, whether they'd be just putting a backbench for seats in. He said, because I'm very confident I could prove this is a viable and proper alternative to other family transport that there is out there.
Yeah. What, like Humvees?
Well, you may say that. It
is the most ridiculous looking. No, I
want wheel arches. No, I want them bigger. No, bigger again. No, you're not thinking big enough. I want bigger again.
Just jack it off.
I need the suspension to travel 6 foot.
It's not quite.
But amazing. I mean, but it's a brilliant feat though. 1, 2, 3, because there were some horrific conditions.
Yeah, they really were.
They seem to be just driving through floods. And, half the motorcyclists got taken to hospital, and it's, dreadful, dreadful conditions.
And
but amazing how they finished.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. I'm trying to look it up and failing. But, of course, one of the other things about Dakar this year, even though it was only on 2 wheels, was Sam, surname begins with S, Sunderland, who won the... who won the motorcycle side of the Dakar for KTM for something like their 5th year in a row or something, possibly more. But yeah, first time a British driver has ever won. Driver or rider has won any part or either part of the Dakar. So that's fantastic. Congratulations to him and the KTM team for that as well, because no matter where they're held, and they're practically never held actually in North Africa anymore, they're not easy. They are.
No, they do seem to seek out suitably challenging environments. I think is probably the way to put it.
I think if they were ever accused of going soft, then
it would devalue.
It would devalue big time. Yeah.
That's not the only rallying we're talking about, though, is it?
No, we're not. Monte Carlo Rally is almost upon us. That's the season opener for the World Rally Championship. Is that still what it's called? I'm having a slight moment of panic.
Yes. Well, the main reason we're mentioning this is because there is now a bevy of fantastic-looking cars, which has suddenly piqued my interest once more.
Yeah.
On World Rally Championship, and this looks like it could be very interesting. I've been listening to reading a few things about it now because my interest has been piqued, and it seems that this might be a bit more competitive this year.
Mm-hmm.
As well, so it won't be just one person charging away with it.
Yeah. So there's the season. So as the season opens, then what cars are there? There's the Hyundai i30, the Citroen C3, the Toyota Yaris, and the Ford Fiesta are the four sort of the four cars I think that are there. Is it the i20, not the i30? I'm sorry. Oh, it is i20. Yeah. I know that because it says in big 10-inch high letters inside the front grille, it says i20 and not i30, which would have been the giveaway, really. So that's there. I was going to say, I've got the WRC page open in front of me, just here. I was going to say that the big trouble with WRC, of course, is trying to find out where you could watch it and how you can watch it. If you are concerned about that, if you don't subscribe to satellite channels, then it is possible to buy a season pass so you can watch it on your computers and on your telly and on your tablets and phones and whatever else.
There's also highlights on Channel 5.
Are there? Okay, cool.
BT Sport is showing highlights as well.
Yeah, the season pass though for the apps and stuff, €39.99 at the minute. The promo code WRC 2017, so that's €40 instead of €50 if you really want to keep in touch with that all the way through, no matter where you are. You can get that from inside the WRC app, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm genuinely interested in that.
Almost
looking forward to that. So we're now flooded with motorsport.
We are, and as we record at 9:30 on Tuesday 17th, there is a 1 day, 19 hours, 47 minutes, and 55 seconds before the Monte Carlo starts. It's 50 now. 45.
I'm ahead of you.
Are you really?
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Oh, gee. Okay. Well, there's something that might not be absolutely exact. There's a day and a bit, yeah.
Move fast, people. Move fast.
Yes. So I'm looking, that actually, as you say, that's me actually. I find it more interesting already. Just as everyone was unveiling the cars, I thought these look cool and they look a lot. I think what I like about this current season is we're starting to see vehicles inspired by it. For a long time there with WRC, we've not seen road cars that are inspired by it. And it's one of the things that I find kind of tricky about the British touring cars at the minute. You look at them all, and I did it when I was at the touring cars at Rockingham last year, and you look at them all and you think, well, the only one I can go out and buy is the Civic Type R. You know, and it's great. There's other lovely cars there that I like lots, but I can't go out and buy one in that's basically that car without the stickers. And I know the Civic Type R isn't really, but you know, it's very difficult to go out and buy. It is impossible to go out and buy a Subaru Levorg of the same spec, of roughly the same spec.
Well, maybe we need to have a chat with them.
Well, yeah. I know. But
well, you know, with all the weight and power that this podcast wields on a regular basis.
Yes.
I mean, it's been a few weeks since we've gloated about how powerful and important we are.
It is true, but that's only because we don't want to make the other podcasts feel bad.
Or you know, online publications.
Well, yes, this is true. Yes,
we're not selective in.
Give over. Right. Shall we move on to List of the Week?
List of the Week, and it's a bit of a one.
It is a bit of a one. Now, we had a bit of a... Let me explain, folks. We had a bit of a quandary about List of the Week this week. We were going to talk about the 20 cars that rocked a vinyl roof look by Major Gav, which is on Motoring Research page. but we decided against it. Okay, it's brilliant, but it's too visual to actually work. So please go look at that list because it's great stuff.
There will be a link in the show notes for that.
In the show notes. And what we're going to talk about instead is significantly less interesting. Is the What Car of the Year 2017.
It's not if you happen to be a car manufacturer.
Well, no, exactly. No. In all seriousness, instead of Vinyl Roofs, we're going to talk about the What Car of the Year, but we wanted to. I think 2 lists is a bit much, but we wanted to highlight that.
Yes.
Which is rather cool. So, these aren't in an order because they're all classified, and people have been clever with their web design, so excuse us a second.
Yes, there's going to be clicking.
There's a lot of clicking, yeah.
And I have to say this to myself so I don't get cross when I hear the clicking as I edit. But there has to be clicking. Unfortunately, because of the dreadful way that this has actually been set.
It's very nice if you're not trying to read it out and publicize it on a cover it on a podcast. We receive no remuneration from What Car whatsoever or any other site that we mentioned.
No.
It's a little bit awkward. So if you're a normal person.
So where are you starting?
I'm starting from City Car, and the City Car of the Year was the Hyundai i10 1.2 Premium SE. Was the overall winner for the more than £10,000 bracket. There are other sub things, but we'll be here all night if we go through every single one of them. And I'm sure just there. So Suzuki Celerio, Skoda Citigo mentioned as well. Next up, let's get bigger. Small car. Skoda Fabia 1.2 TSI 90 SE. 5-door minis and Dacia Sanderos also in the brackets either side of that as well. For each one of these, there are 3 price brackets generally. So there's a sort of lower, middle, and upper price bracket in here. So, for example, the family car, the less than £18,000. Vauxhall Astra 1.6 CDTI 110 design, more than 20,000. Audi A3 Sportback 1.4 TFSI 150 Sport, and the 18 to 20,000 is this Subaru Seat Leon 1 litre TSI Ecomotive 115 SE technology.
Small
SUV Seat Ateca 1.4. Eco TSI 150 SE, and it also came in. It was runner-up overall as well. People had money on the Ateca doing well, and I'm so pleased to see that it did.
The Ateca effect.
The Ateca effect.
It's now part of my contract, I must say it.
It's available, yes. Available from all good chemists. Yes. And dodgy online retailers. Large SUV was the Ateca's platform mate, the Skoda Kodiaq 2 litre TDI 150 4x4 SE 7-seater. Where was I? Large. Luxury SUV, Audi Q7 3 litre TDI 272 Quattro SE. I love the way that these are quite so specific, by the way. It does sort of amuse me that you can say, well, actually, you can narrow it down quite so much. Although, even in a class such as the MPV, which is a notably empty class these days.
Good.
Give over. I so disagree with you on that. They don't have to be. It depends on which one you choose. And also which spec
some seats in it. Don't pretend it's a car. That's what they're trying to do with an MPV. Anyway.
Actually, I do actually believe that people buying vans and sticking seats in them and pretending they're hip Volkswagen surfer dudes with their with T5s and T4s, actually, I find more irritating.
MPV. So how did that happen with the what car? Who won?
Are you saying... Gee whiz. Are you saying that what they should instead have done was buy a Volkswagen Touran 1.6 TDI 115 SE, which was the What Car MPV of the year 2017?
No, I'm saying they shouldn't have strapped a surfboard to the roof of the car.
Give over. So, estate car,
I like estate cars.
Estate cars, however, are alright. What about a Skoda Superb Estate 2 litre TDI 150 SE technology?
massive inside.
Massive inside, and it's the winner, not in the top bracket, but in the £18,000 to £25,000 bracket, which I think is that's a lot of car for that much money.
Well, with a lot of these awards so far, the middle option seems to have done very well.
That's
Not
very
always.
true.
Not always, but it seems to be that there's a compromise on price. So anyway, sorry, I've digressed.
No, you're right, because the more than £25,000 one is the Mercedes-Benz E-Class Estate E220 DSE, and
you'd have hated that. I know that now.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of if you think about it, there's not a lot of difference between a Superb estate and an E-Class estate. There's a little bit of prestige.
Not in terms of size.
But not in terms of
and I don't
size
think
and
in
kit.
terms of kit and the levels of interior quality would most people notice.
Exactly. You probably actually get more kit in the Skoda. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you don't get a 3-pointed star. I think that most people... I don't know that would make a huge difference in many places.
It does to so many people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I guess so. The
hot hatch, though.
best hot hatch, Ford Fiesta...
Sliced bread.
Yes, the Ford sliced bread. It's the Fiesta ST2. That's a mid-range one. 3-door. I'm curious that the best hot hatch at more than £25,000, though, wasn't one of the uber-steroidal nutter hatches that we've seen around so much of this year, like the Focus RS and the...
I don't know, I think an
Civic Type R.
M140i is fairly steroidal.
Yeah, M140i 3-door auto. It's not, but it's not the
I know
Vert.
what you mean, though. It's not the hardcore.
Yeah.
It's not a Civic Type R, it's not an RS, it's not a Megane. Whatever number they're at now, I don't know. However many horses they have trapped under the bonnet.
Yes, yeah, exactly. 576.
But interestingly, below 15 grand,
Suzuki
Swift again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perennial.
Oh, I so need to drive one of these.
Yeah,
really do. But I mean, well done. It just goes to show they've made a cracking car.
Does.
Anyway, sorry.
So best convertible is the Mazda MX-5 2-litre, but not the Sport nav, the SEL nav, which is the one without the different dampers from mine. So yes, because.
So you're saying that's not as good as yours?
Not to me, because I wanted the limited slip diff and stuff, because I'm a tit. It is a 2-litre, though, which is quite cool. So, well done, Mazda.
Okay, I have a bit of a question about the more than 35 grand winner.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you would make an S-Class convertible.
It's so that you can... so, the winner for more than £35,000 is the Mercedes-Benz S-Class Cabriolet S500 AMG line. Why would you not have... because that used to be an... What did that used to be? That would have been a CL convertible. Because you might occasionally need to carry people in the back with legs.
No, why?
Because it
S-Class is not about being convertible.
But the thing about the difference with... Well, it depends where you are. The difference between this, for example, and an SL is the SL is meant to be slightly sporty, whereas this has no sporting pretensions whatsoever. This is a wafty car. It's a wafty convertible. Why you would then...
I'm not a fan of convertibles anyway.
I know you're not.
At the best of times. And then you go and take a luxury barge and then chop the roof off. Make it less usable.
Yeah, but we're not... This is not a car for Britain.
They've obviously done well.
Yeah. This is not a car for Britain, though. This is a car for the south of France. This is a car for California. It's a car for the Hamptons. It's not a car for Bournemouth.
Well, it will be.
It will be. But it's not... That's not the use case that's in people's minds whenever they design it. This is not for... This is you can drive with the roof up and possibly 4 people in it, most of the way to the south of France, and then once you're there, you can put the roof down
and then you can just waft around and leave it parked on the Corniche. So that's what it's for.
Okay.
In my mind, anyway.
Coupes.
Coupe Audi TT 1.8 TFSI Sport. It's the winner. And it's in the less than £30,000 bracket. The A5 3-litre TDI 218 Sport is 30 to 50,000, and essentially the hardtop version of the most expensive best convertible wins best coupe. It's the S-Class Coupe S500 AMG line, which is the Andrew version.
Yes, maybe it's better.
It's better. It's still only got 2 seats in the back, though, mate. So I don't. Best sports car: Porsche 718 Cayman 2-litre. I notice it's a Cayman, not the Cayman
and again,
S as well.
This is in my contract. I am obliged to say at this point, the best-looking Porsche in the range.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I'm
it
not
is.
convinced by the flat grey.
Not quite so convinced by that. No. It's my trouble with that one.
But then on the 50 to 100,000 is another
911
Porsche.
Go back a couple of episodes, watch the video. 911 Carrera PDK as well. So that's very much an automatic, essentially an automatic base spec 911, which is a surprise and a delight because it's a reasonable car, if you know what I mean, as opposed to being completely stratospherically loony. Although that said, to be honest, out of all three of them, I'd much rather have the McLaren 540K, which was the winner for the more than 100 grand mark in there. Best electric car: the Renault Zoe Q90 ZE40 Dynamique nav in the less than 20 grand mark. That's the Q90. That's the 90 amp hour one, isn't it?
Is that the one with the new?
That's the new one with the Monster range.
Still looks great.
It's a pretty car. Still, it's just a pretty car. I just really like them. Suppose they can be a wee bit problematic, but I don't know. Short of being able to afford an i3, then it would be the one that would be there. i3, by the way, won £20,000 to £40,000 and more than £40,000 a Tesla Model S 75D, which is the lowest spec available, I believe, these days.
Yeah, see how that goes with the VED change.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Executive cars, though.
Sorry, you've now got me looking back at the thing. Right. Never mind. Executive cars. By the way, I have discovered that on the grey bar just below the big red header bar with a big pointy arrow on it, if you are going through this website, then you can click to the next one.
You weren't?
I didn't discover that until halfway through.
Ah, okay.
It's made my navigation so much easier for me.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yes. The best executive car is the Audi A4 3-litre TDI 218 Sport. I think we need to make friends with Audi and try
Ridged bonnet.
I think we need to try some Audis because they are winning lots of awards.
I love the look of the A3 Saloon. I think proportionally that looks fantastic. Just, a smidgen of a boot.
I'm going to say that it's the right size of Audi.
Yes.
I mean, you can buy essentially the same car in A3, A4, A6, A4 different sizes. So I think the A3 is the right size one.
Everything is in much better proportion, I feel.
Yeah, unless you are a head of industry being driven around in the back of an A8, then the A4 and the A6 just seem so close together size-wise, really.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what level of management you are in your photocopier company, which one that you're allowed. The less than £25,000 winner is the Skoda Superb 2-litre TDI 150. It's a lot of the same engine here and the same platform. And the 25 to 30,000 is the A3 Saloon 2-litre TDI 150 Sport. So the superb by any other name. Best luxury car, BMW 5 Series 520D SE.
Your dad will be happy.
He will be, but he's going for a 30D SE. 30D SE extra. He will. Yes, he will. 50 to £100,000 is the Mercedes-Benz S-Class S350D SE.
Quick question, though. Sorry, it's just occurred to me. Luxury car, less than 50 grand.
Yeah. That's why it's a 520D SE.
No, but...
Are you trying to...
If it's less than 50 grand?
But, well...
Hang on,
well, it's not executive.
Comfortable and refined... The most comfortable and refined cars in the world. Good accommodation for rear seat passengers. Sumptuous interiors. Complete with high-tech entertainment systems are a given. Running costs are not as important, but many are run as company cars, so low CO2 emissions are a must, and fuel efficiency is a consideration. And yet they give the Rolls-Royce Ghost
extended wheelbase. Well, it's not as ridiculous as you might think. Extended wheelbase as the best luxury car. At more than 100,000. It's...
So in this instance, luxury is comfort, cosseting, and toys.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. No, I'm just curious what the definition was. That was all. Sorry, I'm...
You notice the SE spec, not sports spec and stuff in that one? Although it's what car, so they tend to veer towards that. The Reader Award, as voted for by the readers. First place was the... now, these were vehicles which may not necessarily be out yet. Was allowed.
These are people who are most looking forward to.
People most looking forward to. So the car that people are most looking forward to is the next generation Honda Civic Type R.
It
Good
looks
on
like
you.
to be perfectly suited as a saloon.
Yes, it does look more like a saloon. I'm interested to know.
I'd like to see one up close and just see how it all fits together.
I've seen
some of the pictures look fantastic, and then there's other pictures I look at and I think, ooh, that doesn't sit well with me now.
I've seen quite a few of the new Civics, because of course they're all made here, although they're not sold here yet. You do see them on the back of transporters going to Southampton to be exported to the rest of the world. And they actually, I've kind of got used to the looks, and I really don't mind it. I think with the sort of muscular stuff that's on the new Type R, I think it will mostly be a good looker. I'm interested to know if there will be a slight, because it's that bit bigger, if there will be that slight change in comfort, maybe, and focus, which is going to be very, very interesting.
And I'm still interested to know, because I haven't been able to find out whether there is a difference in the front overhang between the Type Rs and the regular Civics.
Oh, right, okay,
because
pass.
I was convinced, looking at photographs, that the Type R is shorter overhang, or the wheelbase has been stretched.
I think the different front... I doubt the wheelbase has been stretched for technical reasons by any more than a couple of tens of mil. If it's much more than an inch, I'll be amazed. But I think that the big openings in the front bumper actually reduce some of that bulk visually. And cut that.
That's why I wanted it measured, because I wasn't... It was one of those that...
Aye.
I don't think they will, but it really looks like it. But no, it's great. Great news for Honda. What was second?
Second was the Jaguar I-Pace.
IPEC.
IPEC. I've not heard anyone say that before. So the I-Pace, the electric Jaguar concept.
SUV.
Yes.
It's interesting, but it's a bit coupe.
I was looking at it and I wasn't sure whether to call it an SUV, whether to call it an MPV, or to call it a car, or just to call it a vehicle.
I think
because
this is one of those ones that we need to come up with a new niche for. It's a bit like the
Do
Alpha.
we need more niches?
Well,
niches.
Clearly we do. more because it's not an SUV, and it's not a car. It's a car plus. You know, it's like the Golf Plus. They've stretched it up a bit.
Oh God, no! It's better looking than Golf Plus.
Well, yes, obviously, because whoever signed that off is clinically insane. But never mind. But these are sort of they're cars or hatchbacks that have been stretched up so that the flanks are taller, but they've not stretched the roof.
It's a weird thing. Basically,
the windows. They've just stretched the sides.
It's because they're based on a similar principle to the Mark 1A class, which you love so much. It's because they've got that sandwich floor. Because the Mark 1A class was basically designed with space for batteries or hydrogen tanks and stuff, which never got put there. But it's because they've raised it up, so they've got room for all those batteries underneath. So the central gravity is so low, and that's why they've all got this
on the
weird.
Is phenomenal.
No, but that's why
it's phenomenal and brilliant. Yeah. It's just everything else around it that isn't.
But that's why they end up with these.
But I understand what you're saying. It's that principle of that. But it's the way that all these cars have kept. All these new ones, this new niche-y thing where they're saying it's an SUV, but it's not really. But they've kept the side windows very low. It's like it's as though they've taken 30s Fords and done a chop job on them, to keep them small.
That little
in the hot rod world.
Can't believe I let you use terms like that. Third, by the way, was the Lexus LC500. So that's the Lexus LC was unveiled not hugely long ago, and it's essentially going.
Does that not have a bit of an Aston hint around the rear? Look, particularly looking at this picture.
Yeah, it's got
the rear flank and window thing, which is not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not dissing that in any way. I quite like the look of this, the LC500. I think it suits the very Predator angry.
Yeah, I was going to say the sort of Zyklon grill works a treat on there. It does look really good, isn't it?
I'm sucking up all the air for all my turbos. All children are being removed from sidewalks and pavements. Hold them quickly; they'll get taken away.
It's eating me, Daddy. But yeah. Moving on. Car Technology Award.
No, but that was interesting because that was people voting for that one. It was readers even writing in and saying, yes, this is the one I think is exciting for me.
Yeah,
so that was interesting to see.
That's real people. Car Technology Award. I'm going to come to the overall winner in a sec. So the Audi SQ7 with its 48-volt electrical system. That's the kind of thing that not even we are nerdy enough to cover normally. But yeah, it has a high voltage electrical system in there. Other is one that we've talked about a lot, which is the Renault Zoe Q90 ZE40 Dynamique. And of course that huge range really from the new generation of Renault Zoe. I'm interested that the overall winner for the Best Car Technology Award is the Peugeot 3008 iCockpit. And you were saying that you were speaking to Peugeot earlier on, and it's curious because one of the things I'm most intrigued by in modern Peugeots is the dashboard and the steering wheel, and the relationship between one and the other. With these tiny steering wheels and the dials above it.
So looking at the picture that we're looking at now, I really like the size of that steering wheel.
It's supposedly tiny. They're supposedly tiny.
I like the idea of that. I'm just not. I've watched videos of the cockpit, and I'm just not sure what it's meant to do.
My thing is, I'd like to experience it to try and see what it's like.
I think it's one of those that I need to sit in and have some time with, and then I'll get it.
I do think it's a time with one. I'm not just saying this in a sort of grovelly kind of way. I do think it's a time with one. I think if you try this car for 15 minutes, you will find it frustrating as heck. I think it is something that you need to try in real life. I'm very interested in
to just try it, because it is a different set of relationships between the types of controls that we're used to. And I'm my Yaris nerdism is well known, but one of the things I actually really like from the early Yaris is that's a digital pod in the middle. I know many people hated it, but it's something which I like and I'm used to, and I'm really interested to try this, which is another take on just moving stuff around a bit for various reasons of safety and ergonomics, because I quite often end up blocking out quite a lot of the dials the way that I sit. I think that this will probably suit me, which is why I'm quite so keen to try it. We're almost there. Car Safety Award. Peugeot 3008 was second. After I started in the middle, what a moron. Volkswagen Tiguan was third. Peugeot 3008 was second. And first up was the Toyota Prius. This, by the way, was based on a combination of the latest Euro NCAP tests, expert panel judges and safety experts from Factum Research, and as well as scoring against stuff like autonomous braking systems, many of those active accident avoidance type systems that are in there, and of course there was a weighting system based on price. So if you were a cheap car offering loads of safety, then you were going to do better than a more expensive car offering a similar safety. And a Prius is not particularly expensive.
No.
Overall winner of all is the BMW 5 Series 520d SE. That was the overall price. List price is £36,000. What car target price of 33.5-ish?
Already? It's not even...
Yeah, I don't know quite how they come up with that one yet.
How are they getting $2,500 off it?
It's just up to 10%.
Crikey. I mean, that's... Well...
I'm not sure how possible that is. But
is that a worry for BMW? Or?
There may well be people doing the batch purchasing and stuff, so it's kind of set up.
But congratulations to BMW, because it's to whoever wins the car of the year has to be very special, no matter whether you agree or disagree. And I've not driven one, so I can't comment on that.
Yep.
Or many of the others actually either, so I can't comment too much on the validity or otherwise, in my opinion. But so for a medium or middle premium or middle of the range premium car, I think it's a great effort. That is,
yeah,
goes to show how much cars you really are getting now for the money and all that sort of thing. But, because a 520 to get it as well, because the
520s are more powerful than the 530s used to be. It's
snobby badgeness, don't they?
Remember, debadging is a no-cost option with BMWs as well. Or you can just go at it yourself with some dental floss and a little bit of WD-40 afterwards to clean up. There you go. That's my top consumer tip for the day. Now, I like those What Car Awards. One of the reasons they're worth spending the time on, and if you want to go back and find out a bit more about some of the reasoning behind them, is that there's very clear criteria set out for each of those categories, as opposed to just being what people had driven the week before.
It's not just somebody's gut feeling or whatever.
No, they have actually measured.
They do have, it's like you say, they've got criteria. They're making it clear what they're judging it on, and I can see the power of What Car as a publication, and one that people who aren't necessarily car nerds, let alone people who are car nerds, would recognise the brand and would, if they're looking for a new car, go, let me check the What Car site. So I can see why the manufacturers really do pay attention, and I can see why our email inboxes were crammed full the next day, with people being, justifiably proud that their car, or cars in some cases, had won awards. So, well done to everybody on that. And next year, let's see if we can hijack their live screen with the hashtag and see what we can get up on the screen for everyone to see.
Lots of people were trying. I was in the middle of doing something else.
I know you can't swear.
Loads of people were trying many different things, but they were being vetted by a human, they reckon, because they were trying to. There were many things that were tweeted at it without swear words, but still didn't make it.
Maybe they can put that on a YouTube channel next time. What car? So we can watch it live streaming.
I have actually been in the same building as it once. There you go. Yes, I was at a Wired.
Is it you
event.
cleaning again?
No, I was at a Wired event actually.
Sorry.
And the What Car Awards were taking place downstairs. So
right. Well, we're on to. We said we weren't going to waffle for too long, and
we failed miserably.
We have gone on a little bit, but it's only because I went off on tangents on MPV anger.
Yeah.
But for our and finally moment, over Christmas, Carfection released some films where they actually gave some commentary, or they talked and discussed about a few of the films, and one that you'll see in the show notes is the Crazy Car Store break-in, where they use those ridiculous drifting go-karts.
Yeah, crazy carts even.
And they talk through it all. And it gives you a little insight into how it's not always as glamorous as perhaps you hope it to be, or want it to be, or perhaps Alex wants it to be.
At least in that one, they couldn't be stopped by the rain.
Well, no, but they had no sleep.
Yeah, this is true.
There was a great, and it reminded me what a good, fun film that was anyway. But I think one of the things I've noticed is that they are continuing to drink. So I wonder how many of these they've done.
They've done quite a few.
Does air quotes tiredness begin to affect as we move through? We shall have to watch and find out.
Yes. These, by the way, this series of ones with a talkover are being done not just for their own amusement, but mostly to celebrate 5 years of Carfection and X-Car before it, which is the same thing but just with a different name. So that's the reasoning behind why these are coming out, is to celebrate their 5th birthday. And happy birthday, guys, and thank you very much, because it's one of the things that I get home at the end of the week and I flop down on my chair, and basically my Friday night watching consists of catching up on whatever's gone out on Carfection that week. And The Smoking Tire, and it used to be Chris Harris on Cars, but it isn't anymore. Now it's actually been replaced by the Grand Tour at the moment. But that's my Friday night, as far as I'm concerned. I can get home, chill out, watch that, and that's cool. So thank you, people. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I think that brings us to the end of the show. We have actually waffled quite a lot. We're expecting this to be a shortish one tonight, and we're not bad. We're not bad, really.
Yeah.
So just all that really remains is for me to remind you that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Please don't forget to leave a review and rating on iTunes or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing, as well as liking and subscribing on YouTube. It really does matter. Andrew, what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
Best way will be via Twitter. If you search for Crack Windscreen, then you will find me there. And Alan, if people want to talk to you directly, what's the best way?
To me directly, it's Twitter as well, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's Bradley. We'll be back next week. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clews.
And safe motoring.